Welcome back, and today we are gonna be taking a look at the new and quote-unquote improved MiG-29 SMT. Let's start with the positives. The first one and the biggest one that you can actually see as well is the increase of fuel. And it's nice because the fuel of the MiG-29 on full afterburner lasts about as long as I do in bed. Then we have the new and improved radar. It's the Yak 141 radar. It's a little bit harder than Notch. It's a little bit better overall, but it's not a massive thing. But it's always welcome to have a slightly better radar. And then of course we go to the weapon systems, which are the main selling point of today's vehicle. We have R73s, which are absolutely filthy. They have low speed thrust vectoring, aided with the HMD, extremely powerful, they're hard to flare, they have pretty decent range. All in all, I think this is now the best IR missile in the game. The guidance is still kind of wacky, it oscillates all over the place, it looks like it's having an epileptic seizure, but they are still very, very strong. They might change them in the future, I kind of hope they do. And I also hope they change the flight model, because we are now going on towards the negatives about this plane. The MiG-29 SMT is over a ton heavier, it gets the same engines, and let me tell you, this flight model is an absolute shitboat. And you might ask, 1,000 kilograms on the MiG-29, isn't that big of a deal, right? And you would be somewhat correct. However, they also changed the MiG-29s in general. The MiG-29, the German one, used to win versus most of the F-16s, or at least be equal apart from the AJ model, the Block 10s. Now, basically every F-16 beats it. And then you are looking at an increase of weight with the same engines, with more fuel as well. This thing rates barely better than, get a load of this, the F4E Phantom. It is quite a sad depiction. I can't believe I'm saying this, but the MiG-29 might have the worst flight model at top tier right now. At least the SMT. The other one is still flyable. It's not completely horrible, but this thing, it has some of the worst flight performance, even if you compare it to 11.3s, 11.7s. This thing right now is not competitive at all. And even if you have the HMD, if you are dogfighting an F-16, you won't even get your R73s off in a close range dogfight. You might get the first shot off. Why? Because it dumps so much speed now. It turns decently at high speed. That's the one thing they did improve about the flight model. But they killed the flaps. They are not reliable anymore. They killed the rate. And they just killed the overall performance when it comes to retention and low speed maneuvering. That's not to say that these planes are horrible. Absolutely not. But they are completely carried by the missile set. And before I forget, we also have the R27 ET, and the ET is essentially an R27 ER, except, well, it's an IR seeker. The IR seeker is about as good as on the R73s. It's the same on the other R27 models right now. They reject flares quite well, but I'm not really a sucker for relying on an IR missile from very long range anymore, because people tend to just flare them by accident, and it's an absolute waste of a missile. The ER is one of the best missiles in the entire game, so you might as well end up running it. No disservice to the ET, I will have some clips in here today, but I think that the ER is simply better. Now let's take a look at some loadouts here. We have the all the weapon systems here. I mean, of course, we are not gonna be relying this thing as a ground pounder. Why? It's basically mobile SAM site. You send it up into the air to kill some guys, come back to base, jack off, and do it all again. It's not the best ground pounder, but that's not what you are expecting of it. I'll show you the possible loadouts anyway. We have the R73s on the outer pylon, that's the only thing you can do. Then you have all of this in the middle one, and then you have all of this in the most inner one, and then of course the fuel tank in the middle, and then it's mirrored for the other side. And that's about it. Let's take a look at some of the skins. We have the stock one, which I prefer over this one. And I mean, it does look decent, but I just prefer the boring grey, because that's the kind of person I am. And this is the Algerian flag. I have, wait, does it show? It does. Let's go. I actually got my geography right for once. But that's the rundown. Let's take a look at the plane in game. The first game that I'm gonna show you here is a pretty telltale sign of what this plane is like. You are forced to basically take no fights, zip by and absolutely murk people with your missiles, because that's really the only way you're gonna get kills. You might get some gun kills, you might get some dogfight kills against people that are absolutely clueless, people that are stalled out, for example. But in general, looking at today's top tier matches, the games last incredibly short and it always turns into a furball. You're always getting 4 guys on your 6 or you're gonna win with 1 or 2 kills. Top tier at the moment is completely oversaturated with people. There is too many of them. We have 16v16, almost everyone has like 6 missiles, and you're looking at, if we take an average, like 100 missiles in total in every lobby. Pair this with the newer, stronger missiles that are more flare resilient, you just don't have enough countermeasures anymore. And the fact that you can't split them, because personally I would run like 10 chaff and then the rest flares, let me drop them individually, because right now I waste so much chaff flaring AIM-9Ms. I waste so much chaff flaring R73s that you just run out. There's too many missiles in the air. But I don't want to go on too long about the average stuff in the game. I want to look at the SMT specifically. I want you to take a look at my speed. I dodged 1 radar missile and I ended up going 650 kilometers an hour. Yes, I was maneuvering. Yes, I was on 80% throttle. But I lost a lot of speed. Before that wasn't an issue. Before you could dogfight 7 people at once and be somewhat comfortable. In this thing, it is not going to happen. But I have more examples of that in a second here. This is the ideal game where you just get to fly around. The match is kind of dissolving into a bit of a furball. They are at medium altitude. And I'm just looking at targets who I can pick off without getting picked off myself. This plane, you have to fly it like this now. It's an absolute vulture. It went from an apex predator, which funnily enough was also when it was added, to a bit of a shitboat. We shoot our missiles off, we need to leave. We cannot contest that. We cannot pitch up into that anymore. We cannot force any kind of fight. F-16 comes in, we're gonna turn into him, we're gonna flare, but it's not actually for us, so we don't need to. Another F-16, flare the first one. Another F-16, he goes unspotted for a second. We are way too close for that to hit. And then R73s. Oh, mega lul. And then we instantly get slapped by 4 of the F-16s because they all turned around for us. But I know I didn't die. I ejected it safely before it happened. Don't worry about it. And here we are again, this time on City. It's a bit of a smaller map, so we are just going to full afterburn the entirety of the way. And see if we can pick people off. And again, the R27 ETs and the ERs are incredible missiles. They are very, very potent. And that's the way you are going to be getting kills at medium to long range. And you want to kill these guys before they get past the head-on. Because if they do get past it, you're gonna have a hell of a time getting people off you. So I go up over the hill. I notice this guy being spotted behind it somehow. So I go for him. I didn't think he would see me. He did actually. And he full commits us. We hit him as well. We get set on fire. Luckily, we have fire extinguishers. So we are gonna use one. And this is one of those behind the scene shots again, where I just get to put the fire out. Any day now. It doesn't blow my plane up. It does kill my lift a little bit. There it goes. We still have 1 engine. And there is a beast deep inside of us. And it will fight back. So we are gonna see if we can close the gap on that F-14. There is an F-14 on our 6 as well. But he's just straight up ignoring us. Which is absolutely terrific. And I think to myself, I'll just shoot it. The second I shoot it, however, the F-14 gets set on fire. And I end up absoluting, yoinking the shit out of that one. I'm sorry for stealing it, but I shot it the second you blew him up. We then obviously land and get 20 kills, and we are gonna go and showcase some of the R73 clips that I got, which are a bit filthy. Some of these are a bit normal, but I just wanted to include a little bit more of them to give you more of a total perspective of what they are. Side aspect, he is flaring, doesn't care. Let's go for a head-on. Harrier at low speed. Nah, it's the other one, don't worry about it. Off-bore as well, don't even have it lined up. Boom, flat, a little bit late that time around. But it's mostly about the fact that you can shoot these things at absolutely stupendous angles. Which is, to be honest, the entire saving grace of this plane. And at one point you think, did it miss? Did it not reach him? And then he blows up. All in all, these missiles are pretty funny to use and they are absolutely disgusting. And for everyone saying that I was a Russian hater or that I was a freeaboo or whatever the fuck you want to call it, I want this plane to be buffed. This plane right now is not that fun to fly other than the missiles. And I believe that this thing can get better engines. And I do think that it needs them. I do think that it should get them. even with the R73s as they are right now. I do think that the flare rejection on this, as well as on the AIM-9M, I am not favoring one nation here. I want them to nerf them a little bit overall. Right now the F-16s are simply way too dominant. They are way too good. And I'm not talking about the F-16C in particular, I'm talking about the F-16s just overall. They are absolutely filthy, there's really nothing that holds a candle to them. Something like the Mirage 2000 is gonna be your best bet. And let me tell you, it's not gonna win a dogfight versus those things. It has way less missiles. The Magic 2s did get buffed, which is very nice. But you still only have 4 missiles. It's not the best, it's definitely one of the best. But the F-16 kind of just no-diffs the entire raster at the moment. And while I say we can buff the MiG-29 to make it more competitive, I think it's better to nerf the F-16 to give the other planes in the raster a bit of a breathing space as well. There are more planes than just the F-16 and the MiG-29. There is the Mirage 2000, there are the Vigans, possibly the Gripen coming up. We have Kafirs flying around, we have Japan with EJ Kais, and sure they have F-16s, but not everyone has them. We need to take a bigger look at the picture here and actually consider there is more than just the 2 meta planes. Sure, these things need to be balanced against each other, but they also need to be balanced in the grand scheme of things. And I do think that nerfing the MiG-29 is a way to do it. I'm not a big fan of this way. I think that increasing the BR and keeping the planes actually flyable is a better way to do it. But that's not something we can request from Gaijin. And as of right now, the gap between the F-16 and the MiG-29 is simply way too big. But let's take a look at some other missiles in the meantime as well. The 27ET is a bit bipolar. Sometimes it does that, it fucks off the Narnia and it doesn't care. Other times it tracks perfectly. However, this time the guy shoots it down with his own missile, but the shrapnel still finds his plane and ends up critting him. I just found that a bit funny and I wanted to include that. So we are going head on with the Yak 141 here. The F4S is not having a great time. And because we are going so fast, we can actually somewhat dogfight something like the Yak 141. You can tell that I'm trying real hard to keep my speed here. Because I do not want to slam my elevator with this guy. The Yak 141 is an extremely dangerous plane in a dogfight. But after turning a little bit, he is actually going very slow now. We are still going Mach 1. And I'm just going to go straight up vertical and stall him out. Now, the entire team is coming down on us. Look at my speed, by the way. Just from that pool, we are now going 650. Sure, I did a big loop. But let's not pretend like the MiG-29 previous batch, how easily you could do that. And then we get 4 people on our ass and we go back to the base. We obviously reach it and don't die, because we never do. And then we have the 27 ERs, and they are in the same boat as the AIM-7Ms, kind of. These missiles don't do much at the moment, because everyone just sits on the deck. You can't really do much because everyone uses terrain, everyone notches, and that's of course the proper way to fly it. But that means that the effectiveness of these missiles isn't as great as it once was. And I want you to take a look at my speed, which is why I included this clip. I'm just dodging their missiles. I'm going for a shot. Take a look at my speed, take a look at my speed. It's like flying the goddamn Super Mystere, dude. Like, this is borderline unplayable. 600 kilometers an hour after just that? Can we get a clip from like 6 months ago, or God forbid even 2 weeks ago? You would turn once and you'd still be going like 900 after Mach 1. And it takes a bit to get up to speed as well, so I'm just exiting the area. And I'm gonna come back in a little bit, but I turn, and I don't even turn that hard right here. Well, I'm trying to turn at like 6-7 Gs. The speed bleed is immaculate right now. You get your balls drained by looking at your keyboard or looking at your mouse, and I think that's an absolute shame. It makes these planes a chore to play. It makes it hard to have some fun. Because if you try to have some fun, you will instantly get punished for it. But that's what top tier is now. It's just one nation being strong. It has been for a while, basically since the Viggen. We went from F4E to Viggen to MLD for like 9 months, which was absolutely busted. And then they added the F14, which was kind of the counter to the MLD. And now we're here. Now we are here. It's a bit of a rough ride, especially with 16 guys in the enemy team. And they're always filled up. The queues go like 2 seconds. Like you don't... I am only playing on one server nowadays. I used to play on all 3. Or on all 3 I played on all of them except for South Asia. And I still get games within like 2 seconds. 32 people, like that, boom, full of it. And then my last gripe with top tier right now, or just the game in general, every other match is like this. It's horrible for gameplay, it's horrible for footage, because it looks like shit. Now, I'm gonna shoot an ET at this guy through a building, basically, almost 9/11, the skyscraper. Luckily, it actually hits a plane and melts the steel beams. But look at this, you cannot see anything, and I guess it's fog. They're not clouds, because you can actually shoot IR through them, but it always happens on maps with a lot of terrain. It happens on maps like Vietnam, on maps like Pyrenees, I don't know, the hilly map that I showcased twice, the previous clip. Like, there's a lot of maps right now with a lot of terrain, and then you have cloud cover from 0 to 5 kilometers. We are looking at the Gaijin Gombololus cloud, or whatever it's called. And when it's fog like this, it's at least playable, because you see some of the terrain before you slam into it. But when you get the Gombololus cloud, you're fucked, because you can't really go low to the deck. You can't really scrape the ground, because out of nowhere there will suddenly be a mountain that just goes hur, 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 and you get Freddy Fazbear in a cloud. There's just a mountain out of nowhere, and you can't do shit. Like, you can of course get a little bit of altitude and make sure that you don't hit the mountain, but if you sit at altitude, the entire enemy team will lock you up with the radar. You get Phoenixes slung at you across the map. You get AIM-7Ms slung at you across the map. You get 27 ERs shot at you across the map. All in all, there is gonna be missiles flying at you from every goddamn direction. What I said before, everyone hugs the deck. So when someone finds a guy that is not hugging the deck, you will be focused. And it doesn't matter what you are in, they won't even be able to tell. They will just lock you up and everyone will start slinging the shit at you. And let me tell you, it is not a fantastic experience. Now, we have some gameplay here. We are on the 6 of an F-16C, and you can tell that I'm cutting throttle. Why? Because I'm trying to secure my position. I know that I will not win this fight sustained. But once I have position, once I have the ability to shoot at him, I can at least pressure him into making mistakes. Is this a fantastic idea? No, because I am going to be stuck in this fight. I can't really do much, and there's another F-16 around, but I need to make sure that this guy is dead before it turns into a 2v1, and I felt like I had the best chance to do it right now. We kill him, and then we move on over to our teammate, granted if we can actually make it to him before he dies. The answer is no, we cannot. And now we are stuck in a 1v1 with an F-16, and we are going 700 kilometers an hour, and I need to make sure that I do not get fucking missiled. I try to use the fact that I'm so much slower to instantly get on his 6, but he goes vertical, he cuts his throttle, he's using his position well, and I can't do anything. And then he turns the wrong direction, and before this was the free ticket to slamming an F-16, but I cannot. I need to dive out, I need to get away from here, because that's a fight that I am not winning in 1,000 years. Say it's the plane, it's the pilot, I don't care, I'm a skill issue. I'm not doing it, I am going back, and I am going to rearm. He's gonna do the same thing. If he wants to fight me, I'll try to reverse him. I'll do it all day long, but he breaks off as well. We go for a landing, and as we are landing, Mr. Phoenix Slinger shows up, and we're gonna try to stay as low as possible. Then we go a bit higher at the last second to avoid getting splashed by the ground, and then we are gonna contest him. I don't want to camp the base. I still have 10 minutes of fuel, which is gonna last me like 2.5-ish minutes. So I'm just gonna fly underneath him, and we are gonna pitch up and see if we can maybe dogfight him. The answer is yes, we can. We go underneath him, so we do have the advantage in the first turn, but look at my speed. I'm only going 480 already. I'm trying to turn as little as possible by kind of keeping it straight, but still pointing it in front of him, so I'm cutting him off and I can close the gap, because I just want to get as close as possible. In the meantime, he's being shot at by every AA on the planet. I kind of wish it was different, but he's not really letting me do it a different way. We use the gun indicator, we get a crit on him, and then the gun indicator goes absolutely apeshit, and it has no idea where to go. I mean, look at that. It's absolutely terrible, so I just turn it off and decide to use my own gun computer, which is unfortunately not as accurate. And then my last gripe with the patch. Mid-map AA. It targets you when you have missiles, and in this case it also targets you when you are blue. The tickets ran out before I hit the ground, so I survived another game. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.